Okay, good morning, folks. Try to do some painting. And the last time we left off, the two Panzer 3Fs were waiting to get sprayed. That hasn't happened yet. So hopefully that'll happen today. So we can proceed with them. At this point, the other two are already coated, the Panzer 4F1 and the Panzer 4G, or the Panzer 4F2, really. It's only called an F2 for, I think, from May 42 until August or something like that. I didn't realize, and then they just called it G, so it just became an early G. All right, let's do the F1 first. Short barrel Joker. All right, so what we have done is, for clarity, I think I'm going to let's leave that here. We can use this over this area. We have painted this thing the Vallejo Panzer Gray color, which they call German gray, and gave it an Agrax Earthshade wash. That's all we've done. Actually, we did that to both of these tanks. So we've let's give these guys a brush to make sure that the dust that's accumulated in the last week isn't on there. It's not the end of the world, but so we're going to dry brush the German gray back on it. And it actually makes a big difference, giving it that wash. It doesn't look like it at this point, but it does make a difference. Both of these are Hasegawa models, and they're pretty well detailed. So all right, let's get a brush that we want to sacrifice to the dry brush gods. I think we'll use this one. What is this doing here other than it shouldn't be here? Man. I actually got a chance to go to I went out of town yesterday to a car show. I figured, well, let's kind of try to do double duty with the mileage. And let me see if there's any hobby stores around. Nope. They just basically don't exist anymore. There's gamer stores. I did find one that was listed on my way back, and it was a bit out of the way. But I went there anyways, and they closed really weird. They had one thing about the pandemic that I just find stupid is just the new times that people have post-pandemic. You know, the place is only open till 4 on a Saturday. It's like, why even open? So I had to rush to get over there. And I figured, well, I'm probably not going to find anything. And I was right. I didn't find any. Actually, they had some sets of... I'm actually going to use this to see if this absorbs it a little bit more. It doesn't absorb it. AK paint sets, of all things. And I'm not sold on their paints just yet. They're a little too watery for my taste, and I didn't need anything, so I tend to not buy things when I don't need things. And shit, I'm gonna have to change my tack, aren't I? Yeah, I'm gonna want to glue something on these things. All right. I didn't realize I hadn't done that. Let's get quirky. But I went there and they had some. It's definitely a legitimate hobby store, but with a lot of hobby stores, when you do find one, they usually have a ton of radio control things, which I've never been into, especially planes. You spend all that time on a plane, fly it, and nosedive, shattered. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm not really interested in doing that, but they did have some armor. It was a Northern 35th scale. And then it reminded me of something that I don't think I've ever talked about that used to be kind of a recurring thing back when I used to do models that I always found extremely annoying. And yeah, that's about right. And that is a model company. They had a model by a company that I don't know how the hell they stayed in business as long as they did. And I'm not sure if they still are in business or not, but I did see one of their kits there. It's a company called Lindbergh. And they've been around forever. I'm not sure if they're still around, but I mean, they're like from the 50s and shit like that. And geez, come out. And what was unique to Lindbergh, and maybe there's other companies that do this as well, but they would have these models in all these weird scales. Yes, they had some normal models as well, but then they would have, they would have like a ship model of a battleship. I'm like, good, so it'll fit with all the 600 scale ones I have. No. Well, what about the 700 scales from Japan? At that point, they made those in Japan. Waterline. Nope. It was 1/570th. So they had a model like the Missouri battleship. It was 1/570th scale. I'm like, what the hell is that? And they did another. That one at least is an even number. I heard they had a riverboat in like 1/163rd scale. So it's almost like, they would build their models based on they'd scale their models based on what boxes they have. Like, we got a box this big. Let's try to fill it up as big as we can. How big can we go? But it reminded me because they had a half track there, the German prime mover. Like I don't know I do not know my vehicle designations that don't have guns on them. Okay, I'm just SDKFZ 7, I want to say. It's the big one that moves like the 88 gun, right? The big 88 that they use, the flak gun that they used in North Africa. Typically, they used it in other places, but that's what it's known for. Mostly. They had one there by Lindbergh. Scale, 1/140th. Why? Why? Nothing else is one. Why not 1/35th? No. How about 1/48th? No. How about 1/56? No. 1/64th? No. 1/32nd? No. 1/40th. I don't know if they made other vehicles in 1/40th, but I'm going to say that they probably didn't. And I just don't understand why anybody would buy this shit. It's just nonsense. It's. So I don't think I ever built any Lindberghs. But it just reminded me of that. I was just like, what the hell are you people smoking? I think they made some stuff in 1/43rd. Like, it's an odd freaking number, for God's sake. What the hell's wrong with you? It ends in a 3. At least 1/35 is a factor of 5 or something. I don't know. And that's what I used to say. They had a model this big, they wanted to fill it out. I don't know if they're still around. Honestly, HO scale, the trade scale is a pretty weird number, 187th, but it's been around so long that I just kind of accepted it as that's just how it is. But that's a weird number too. Okay. Scale rant. When it comes to scale, I mix 1/72nd and 1/76th freely. I prefer 1/72nd. I prefer the vehicles be a little larger because the figures are a little larger anyways. So, but I mix them both because I have both. I have old things from in both sizes. And they had some paints there I've never seen before, a company called Mission Models. They're acrylic paints out of California, but it seemed like they were going to be too watery. But I didn't go crazy and say, hey, look, they've got they make a Dunkelgelb here too, and they also have one from Tamiya. They have the Tamiya dark yellow, which is what we used to use back in the day to paint our 1/35th scale models. There wasn't a Dunkelgelb controversy back in the early 90s. We just used Tamiya dark yellow and done. They had that. And they had these Tamiya lacquer paints that I don't know what the hell they are. But back in the early 90s, there was only two paints that I can think of that were water-based. And that was three. The Citadel ones, which were kind of the new kids on the block. The Tamiya paints and the Polyester Flocal ones. And I had a bunch of the Polyester Flocal ones. I really liked that paint. The Tamiya was water cleanup, but they're almost like an alcohol base. So you wouldn't want to thin them with water because weird shit would happen. They would just behave weird. All right, where is the turret to the long-barreled F2? And the only reason I'm painting this is I want that super glue to dry on the handle. All right, we need to be careful because this is getting pretty thick, and sometimes thicker is not better. Sometimes a dry brush paint can be too thick. and it'll leave, too much of a height difference. Just a subtle color difference between the two, but just enough that it makes some of parts of it look grimy. All right, these guys, this is super glue. Should be all right. It's not like I'm going to put some tremendous pressure on this. I need to get more of this, though. For silent folks, good morning, or good afternoon if you guys are on the old continent. There we go. One of these is missing a return roller at the top. Yeah. I do not know where that ended up. Actually, I've made no attempt to try to fix it with something else, but that's either you move on or you let it hold you back. For dry brush, you used to get some solid paint on the end of a cocktail stick on a paper, then under the brush. Yeah, I'm having, I'm not going to say an issue. An issue would be keep me from doing it, but I'm having to change tack a little bit because I don't want the paint to be too thick because I'm kind of dry brushing things that are smooth. I mean, a good majority of the tank side is smooth, so I don't want it to really look tacky per se. And well, I'm having to change that up a little bit, and I'm happy with the results. I don't want to do the modulation and the zenithal and all those fancy words that you don't use on a daily basis. That just, I can't spend, I'm good spending about 4 hours on a vehicle, and that's about it. I can't spend more time on a vehicle than I do on a figure. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I got too many to paint, and but you can. Oh, this one didn't dry. Okay, well, you missed your spot, dude. As I'm in dry brushing mode, so we'll just have to hold on to this one while we dry brush it. Let me take. Nice. Get out of the way. I hate dropping shit on the floor. As I like to say, I'm an asshole, not incompetent. Or, it's the weekend, I'm not bending over today. And I really haven't dry brushed at all in the last 20 years. So it's kind of refreshing to do that. I see these models that people build, and they're just like, they look more realistic than a real vehicle. And I mean, it's not. I just don't want them to. I don't want them on a war games table. They look too blended together. I need something that stands out a little bit more. And a perfect example for that is what I did with the Zimmerit on that. What's it called? Stud 4. Stud 4. Is just give it a dry brush the color over black, so you leave some of the black and some of the crevices. Now, there is kind of an issue that I've kind of found with that, because I'm spraying first. The spray is an enamel, and when I go and seal it, and it's also an enamel, it likes to reactivate that black. But it's, as long as you don't put it on super thick, it's not really that big of an issue. But it did kind of catch me off guard a little bit. Just a little bit. But there's a certain style I'm going for, and it may not be everybody's style. And if I ever do a winter vehicle, it's going to become apparent how mine's different than most winter vehicles. And even what winter vehicles look like in real life. Because if you look at a winter vehicle in real life, or if you try to paint it realistic, what you end up doing is letting the lighter colors sit on things that are crevices. Like the people that use dusting effects, the dust ends up accumulating in these cracks, and that's realistic, but it's counterintuitive to making the vehicle details pop. So I'm against it in my own personal creations. That's the first thing you notice. It's like it just looks wrong. It just doesn't look right. I'm not trying to build realistic things. I want to paint things that look more like a graphic novel, not a comic book, because that makes it sound like it looks shitty. No, I still want it to look good, but it needs to have, black lining-ish to make it stand out at a distance so you could see it 3 feet away. Okay, I think we're done with both of these. So the long barrel doesn't have the thing stuck on it. Okay, this is the one that we're going to do chocolate brown with, by the way. At least we think we're going to do chocolate brown. All right. Now we're going to take, let's go ahead and rinse this. This Luftwaffe blue. And then we're going to dry brush this thing with Luftwaffe blue. Give it a little bit of a blue look to it, which I happen to like. Which, when you spray, it goes away and then it comes back. And it's weird. And it looks different in natural light than it does here. As everything else, it looks better in natural light than the light you guys see here. Especially with vehicles more than the figures. The figures isn't that much of a difference. But the vehicles is huge. The pictures I took of the Stug 4 look terrible here. It all looks like one color. All that extra work that I put in layers, it's not visible. Take it out in natural light and I'm real happy with it. This one's more watery, thankfully. Did those Lindbergh models make it out there to the UK? Hopefully they didn't. Can't say I'm a fan. Even back in the day, I wasn't a fan. I never built an Airfix model as a kid. Well, it wasn't called an Airfix model. They were all NPC, but they were Airfix models with better art. Not that the Airfix art is that bad, but man, the NPC art was stellar. Absolutely stellar. You know, you're a kid and you want to build World War II stuff. It's like, man, this isn't color. There's a color painting of this. And they didn't give color recommendation. They didn't give color manufacturing. They don't give paint manufacturing recommendations back then. It was like Panzer Gray. Who makes it? You figure it out on your own. This is the early '80s. You're on your own. Pactra. God. Pactra paint that makes the tester's paint seem good. No point in overpainting that muffler. It's just going to get covered in corrosion. Okay. I don't know if you can tell the difference here, but and again, this light just is so powerful. It makes things look one way and they really look something else, but you get the idea. It's got a little bit of a blue tint to it. It's my artistic license. I think it looks better. And this is totally other people's fault. Because back when I used to paint German tanks, I didn't do this to them. I just painted them Panzer Gray and move on. And they make other things with they make like a wash for Panzer Gray or something like that that adds a little bit of a blue color. That's just I'm good with this method. I don't want to wait a long time for that wash to dry. And I wish I could put the divisional markings on here, but I think I'm going to leave them off. They're going to be kind of generic. I don't want to make these for some unit that was in Stalingrad and then need to use them somewhere else and have that cloud hanging over me. I don't think I am anyways. Now, if I do British vehicles, I'm definitely going to have to put the markings on them because they were prominent on the fenders. Looks good so far. So I've been pretty happy with this method. There's other things that look pretty good too. I just don't want to devote 12 hours to a vehicle. I'll never finish them all. I think I'm going to do chocolate brown on this. Let's put it that way. It may look terrible, and I may hate it, and I may have to repaint it. But there's enough different versions of enough illustrations based on pictorial evidence of the Mark IV specials in with camouflage on top of the gray. It was that transition period before they went to Dunkelgelb. They're equivalent enough. Put this away. sands or gray away. We don't need her for a while. Let's get Mr. Sand Yellow. Dark Sand, or Dark Sand's what it's called. And this is an idea I lifted from somebody else on YouTube. I would have never thought to have done this. And that's just, it's adding a sand color as a lightener as opposed to a white. I would have just done a white. I'm just ignorant that way. But I'd be, oh, it's going to make it look green if I had it. Nope. Yeah, because this is bluish and this is yellowish, and we're going to have a greenish type color. No, you don't. Not this time, pal. It didn't work out that way. Now, I'm not looking forward to painting the tracks on this thing because they are separate, and I decided to not put them on there, so I'm sure whatever I do, I'll end up being happy with the results. So, not my first rodeo. Alright, so we're going to do some dry brushing with this lightened up some, and then we'll paint the road wheels, which that could take a millennia, but at least they give you a little notch to go up against, so it's not too bad. Just got to get the flow of the black paint just right, and it's pretty unobtrusive. I'd probably get away with not painting it, but there's no need to resort to that at this point. It get hot all of a sudden? Yeah. We're now in the seasons where it's cool at night, coolish at night. It's not oppressive at night, and it's hot in the daytime. You got to dress in layers, or you dress for the hot weather and just throw on a jacket or something for an hour in the morning. Yeah, really, really hot. I don't like being hot when I'm not doing any physical activity. Doesn't make any sense. The happy little color that we painted here. I wonder what the hell that was. And the guy that I lifted this from, he was super anal retentive about mixing them to a certain proportion. I'm like, this ain't my first rodeo mixing things, pal. We're winging it. But I do know that when you're dry brushing, you need to do more of a contrast than I would normally do if I was painting. Otherwise, I just wasted my time dry brushing this. So we're going to dry brush this color, and then we'll go back and we'll pick out details with a brush, over accentuate the corners and stuff like that. And this is going to end up getting some weathering on it, so some mild weathering. I don't like going crazy on the weathering, and I'm doing everything that I've done. It's pretty subtle. It's nothing out of the park crazy. and I'm leaning towards painting the numerals myself. They're going to be small. And I'm not putting those numerals that get painted over the vision slot that just look wrong. They just look totally freaking wrong. I don't care if they did it in real life. You're not doing it in my Panzerwaffe. Stay your ass home. Nice. And that's the problem with this, is it's dries up super fast on here. If I didn't care about ruining a wet palette or going through, see, that's too light, or going through too many of them, I would, I'd actually mix this and leave this paint on the wet palette. But it's not that inconvenient. This basically is giving it some color variation along most. Oh, are we back to this? Will you leave me alone? Oh, Christ on a crutch. I hope whoever this person is, they get cancer. That's right, I said it. I can't do that from here. Let's see how I can do this. I need to go here. I need to go here. What a pain in the ass. And if it's not really a person, then whoever designed the program can get cancer. Creating problems for other people, man.
Sweet.
Oh, here it says held for review. Let's hide it. Does everything get hidden? No. Hide user on this channel. Okay. Hopefully I don't sign in as somebody else. Bastard. Dating site. Yeah, I'm sure that's all it is. Sometimes technology isn't the best thing. We need to do a little bit more on the back of the hull there. Just a little bit. I saw they had a product at the hobby store yesterday called like Tamiya panel lining. And I'm like, I'm not changing my method that I'm already doing. It's I don't need to keep altering what I'm doing. I'm happy with how it's turned out. Like I said, I don't want to spend 12 hours on a vehicle. Because the part you spend the detail on ends up being the next step, where you pick out stuff. Okay, and how does this side deck look? Okay. Yeah, it looks all right. Okay. Now we'll be done with this. Let's go pick out some details. Now, for this, I will use the wet palette because I want to keep the paint there alive for a little bit longer. And just for comparison purposes, let's take a look at, these guys aren't sealed, so it's equivalent. And this one has things that are picked out. This one does not. No. Okay. Still no smell. Whatever it was, they solved it. And though I am using pennies on the bottom to repel mold, I've never seen any mold on them. I think this is just a different material. All right, let's see. Let's use the brush that we were using. Although I'm not going to, let's start off by putting some of the paint on with this one. And we're going to use the same colors. And there's some stuff I do afterwards. I tend to do the antennas last. So I feel like that adds a lot to the look of the vehicle, giving it antennas. I never thought about it when I was doing 1/35th scale tanks, but I do now. I think it's pretty, I don't know if this is the same color, so we're going to put some new one there. I never really thought about it before, but put antennas on a vehicle if I can. If the turret is die cast and it comes out of that, then I'm not drilling it a die cast. That's just too tall an order. They are War Games miniatures after all. They don't need to look like they're from IPMS, International Plastic Model Society, or whatever the hell it is. Here's the F1. All right, so we're gonna go in here and let's mix some colors in. That is about that same shade that we were using, or a wee bit lighter. And it's okay that it's watery, because we're just going to do stuff like pick out things that stand out. Jeez, is too big a brush? Is it the wrong shape? It's the wrong shape. Oh, that's a problem. How the hell did that happen? No. Did I clip that on the way in? Okay, I thought it had dry paint on this. We don't want to replace this one just yet. We've got some more use we'd like to get out of this brush before it craps out. And we'll do the edges last. I feel like that's the biggest difference that I can use for this. That's one thing that stands out. Man, pretty quiet morning. We're not going to highlight any more of the vents in the middle because that's an area that would get extremely dirty. The fact that I'm just doing this is probably too much, but I do want those details to stand out. There's no point in having made them nicely and then they don't stand out. Like I said, we'll do the edges last. Is there anything on here that needs to be that's not an edge? That's just edging there. Yes, yes, grumbly stomach. So I've been listening to some programming about Stalingrad. I admit I'm not a big on the Stalingrad thing. Never have been. And I didn't realize how much of the city the Germans had captured, which is damn near all of it. I mean, I mean, I didn't know they captured all three factories. But, yeah, it's cool to learn something new you didn't know. I guess technically they captured the city. The problem is they didn't hold it because the flanks gave in. You can't put the weak guys on the flank. The thing you're thinking, the Germans had enough of a problem dealing with the T-34s, just the standard T-34s. Imagine what the Romanians had to deal with them. I don't know if they had a good anti-tank gun. Probably a 47 millimeter or something like that. You can't deal with T-34s with that. Regardless of, what kind of motivation your troops are under. I was reading the Kiev book that I've been reading recently, which is, I like to say, it's everything except the Battle of Kiev in 41. And, oh, it's got headlights on here. Cool. And one of the things that they said is the attack, the initial attack by the Romanians on Odessa was just freaking massive amount of casualties. By like September or something like that, I think it said that the Axis forces had lost 15% of their strength or something like that, but the Romanians had lost 30%. The Romanians had taken a big old beating. A big old beating. I guess we should do the turret before we go and do the edging on that. If I can get away with painting it like this, then this is a reasonable amount of time to spend on each vehicle. Yeah, we're going to do stuff like this on the edge to make it pop. Man, you folks are quiet this morning. Yep, this is a little plate or something. What if the tank rules that I'm using take into effect that this is naturally a weak point? If you hit the side of the turret and you hit, all these vision slots, that could potentially be a weak point in the armor. Which is why if you see like models of Panzer IV H's and J's, they'll almost always have the turret shirts on. You can't use the escape hatches for that because they open and there's no place for somebody to move. So in that respect, some of these German vehicles, even though they're pretty good in the ergonomic department, they're not so good in the bailout department when you start blocking access to some of these doors. Hugh Carroll, welcome. I'm doing okay. I was fighting a headache all day yesterday. I think it was allergies, and it's, I mean allergies like I didn't feel anything in my nose, just environmental. The weather turns nice, and for about a week I finally figured it out. It took me to be 51 years old to figure it out, but the dryness and shit like that changes, and then eventually it stabilizes, but nothing nasal. I was fighting that all day yesterday. It came and went. Take the headache medicine, it doesn't make a difference. I actually coped all right considering. I just don't like having a headache. I can't think right. It still went to the auto show and that all worked out okay, so. I guess if you're thinking about it logically, you want as many hatches as you can for people to bail out of your vehicle, but you want them on the roof. So in that respect, I think the Sherman design's pretty decent. Just having doors on the side is a natural weak point. Actually, never thought about that. Never really gave it much thought. But one of the things I love to harp on is that if you're playing a true skirmish game, and I mean that what you see is what you get. And this game is just about what you see is what you get. 1 inch equals 2 meters. And the guys are about an inch tall, so there you go. Is that a vehicle will have a blind spot. It'll have a maximum depression for its main armament. That is a function of how high the weapon is off the ground and how much it can depress. So like for instance, a Sherman tank, based on the height where the barrel is, cannot land a shell within, I think, 35 feet of itself, ever. So you can't hit somebody with a main arm and HE round if they're closer than 35 meters to you. You get a little bit more by the blast radius. I don't know what the blast radius is right now of 75 HE, but it would be, let's say it was 6 feet. Then you wouldn't. If you're like 29 feet or 28 feet away from the vehicle, you can't be touched by its high explosive round. Or it couldn't hit the ground. I guess it could hit you in the head, but it'd have to be like a direct hit. Well, that's splitting hairs. That's really splitting hairs. You gotta just. You just got to assume that an AP round, for instance, isn't going to hurt anybody. At some point, you're really splitting hairs. So so ideally, if that's a worry of yours, you want a vehicle that's low to the ground with a lot of depression, and they tend to not go together. Usually, low vehicles tend to have less depression. But I feel liberated not having to play a tournament set of rules where it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, well, we're not going to play it that way. Not like, well, that's what the rules say. My time in that land is over. I'm ready to play something a little bit more less abstract. Really looking forward to it. Make sure we don't go too light. Have we done the whole? We kind of have. We need to touch this up. And then after this is the last stage. I don't get more anal retentive than this. Just adding some detail to these edges and stuff. And honestly, it forces me to kind of enjoy the build of the vehicle. You know, the angles of the vehicle. By having to pay attention to it. I like to put a little line here when this panel has like a crease in it. detail in the cupola. Started reading some memoirs on the trip for some scenario ideas, and so many memoirs from German guys, and my tolerance for it is just like not very high, you know. Especially when they're very self-serving or not very sympathetic. Not sympathetic to a clean Wehrmacht. I will tell you this though. If you had to be a soldier on the Eastern Front, I think you're better off, a soldier. I think you were better off being in the German armed forces than the Russian ones. The Russian guys really didn't give a shit about their people. Just sure seems that way. I think the Germans treated their own soldiers better than the Soviets treated their own soldiers. But other than that, I think it's easier to look at things maybe from a German viewpoint because they're more Western. And if you're used to looking at things from a Western viewpoint, which most of us are, but at the end of the day, as little as I like communists, it's a good thing that they defeated them because you do not want you do not want the Third Reich to take out. You do not want it to be in the situation that the Germans were in World War One, after they had knocked out Russia. But this time they took over Europe, so that would have been a bad end game. But I'm reading these memoirs or having them read to me, and it's like, this guy's awesome. Everywhere he was, he never could do any. It's not that couldn't do any wrong. He was like the savior everywhere he went, and it's like, well, it's a good thing they didn't have more people like you because they would have won the war. It's either that or you're just totally full of shit. So, I'm very skeptical when people are blowing smoke up their own ass. But they did have cool equipment and vehicles. But so did some other people too. I think the end game here is gonna be, we're gonna do maybe 6 or 7 more vehicles in Panzer Gray, and then we're gonna switch to the Russians. We're gonna do, I got 3 Mark IIs to do, these 2 guys, a couple half tracks. Then we'll switch to the Russians before I do German trucks, just to mix it up a little bit. I really want to see how it handles the command and control. Differences between the German tanks and the Russian ones. I'm pretty happy with that. It doesn't show up on the video. It just doesn't. No matter what I do, it just doesn't show up with this lighting here for you guys. I have to wait for the pictures. This thing has a lid, doesn't it? Yeah. I'm straying away from the airbrush thinner. I'm just using straight water. Airbrush thinner is just behaving strangely sometimes. Almost like it's making the paint clump up a little bit. Let's paint the inside of this plate. Make it stand out a little bit. Is that better? It is. That's one thing when I paint things. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Did I make it better or did I make it worse? Make it better. Okay, we're on the right track then. No point in throwing labor at something and it be worse. I think we're going to leave this how it is. I don't think there's a whole lot of point in doing much more. I don't know what else I could do that wouldn't be over the top. Oh, the lighting is just terrible. It's way too bright. It's not that light. Let me see if we can tinker with this. That would be here. Let's try that to see if that's more equivalent. That's closer. See how that changed? Look how bright it is there as soon as I put my hand behind it. Look how it darkened it. Yeah. See what I mean about the light just being all over the place? Okay. I think we're good with that. Now, let's do the equivalent here. This paint goes a long way on the wet palette. We're just adding it for little details here and there. All right, let's see what we got here on the top. I know we've already messed with it some. Let's do the edges. There's this one modeler out there that does really good work. Looks better than, I think it's Plasmo. And I was watching a video of his and he was really apprehensive about painting his first figure. And I'm like, it's just funny what kind of limitations you can put on yourself, that you do really good work, but then you're apprehensive about screwing up. And I can see that. I mean, I do that sometimes myself. I'm scared of trying something instead of just throw paint on it and paint your way out. So I'm guilty of that as well. Those little backgrounds I've done, that I use for backgrounds for some of my photos, I painted those myself with craft paint. I never did it. I was scared of doing it. And one day, I just started throwing paint on. I watched a video how to paint a background thing. And I learned one tip that I would never come up with myself, which was to cover the entire canvas in like a sepia, like a medium brown. Not paint on a white canvas, but paint on a sepia background. I don't know what it was. I liked how it turned out in his video, so I will defer to someone with more experience and tried it. And I would have never done that on my own. Would have never come up with that idea. And I didn't like how the entire painting turned out, copying his, but it did give me enough of the, got rid of my insecurities to try and again. So I do need to do a Normandy. I need to do a few more of those. And I just use cheap ass craft paint. You know, you can't use, I shouldn't say you can't use cheap ass brushes. All my brushes are cheap ass, but you know, you don't have to use some $20 brush. So I don't know if Picasso used really expensive brushes, but if he did, then it was a waste. I am not a Picasso fan. If you like it, that's cool. I'm sure you could. That's a shame. If people like Picasso, I just don't believe anybody couldn't do a better job. Even if you don't have artistic skill. Not a fan. And it doesn't help that he was a communist either. That never helps. But sometimes you keep yourself from doing things because you're scared of screwing up. And I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. And yeah, so I keep saying I want to paint something for the house, landscape, and I just never do. And I probably need to just, maybe need to get drunk and just do it. Not worry about it. It didn't take long. Those little backgrounds, I think they took like 10 minutes each. I know that's insane, but now the hardest thing about them is you got to find something to mix the paint on that isn't that isn't terrible. So in my case, I actually ended up using a plate, like a real plate that you eat on, just a white plate, and it cleans up easy. Because if you buy like a palette, you know, that's made of plastic, even with craft paint, it must be very porous because it's poor quality, and you know, because it's cheap, and you can't ever get all the paint out. But if you use like a plate, obviously we're using non-toxic paints. You know, you could probably eat them and be okay. Not that you'd want to do that, but all of it cleans off real easy. No, don't shift on me, dude. Don't be shifty. Oh, did this break off? It broke off. You Nazi bastard. Well, then the hell with you. It wasn't really that necessary anyways. Okay, is that a shift in the... Might be. I'm going to paint it like it is. I always like the people that are... They always say, "Oh, I gotta paint this first because then I can't get to it later." I can get to anything I can see. That part's easy. I just don't want to glue something that's already painted. I'm not going to do much more to it. Well, obviously we're going to paint the tools. Duh. And that muffler, that rusty ass muffler. I don't think I'm going to do more to it. You know, I don't want it a light color. I just want it to have some light highlights on it to make all those details and angles pop. Basically the same thing we did with the Shermans. The Shermans just didn't have as many angles and things on them. The Germans added too much shit to their tanks. All right, let's get. Let's not mess with the F2 right now. Let's get Mr. F1 done. The other saving thing I've done is the whole thing is sprayed in black, right? So when I'm highlighting, when I'm doing the dry brush, I try not to get all the way to the end of the barrel, so it'll naturally have a darker look to it without having to darken it later. Hey, I gotta cut some corners. That's a way to do it. Let's paint the muffler. For this, we need this pumpkin orange that's called orange brown. That's what I've been using, and I'm pretty happy with the results, so no reason to change. Yeah, see, right now it looks too dark. The view there. Yeah, I want them between the two. Just go up one little notch. Can I not do that? I guess we'll go here. Well, I think after messing with these things for a couple of months, I've gotten used to picking them up and not have to put a big purchase on them. But it is strange to grip things ever so lightly. I don't know if these straps on here would get rusty as well. Let's take a look at something. Move the mouse. Drill bit, that's what that was. Why can't I get this screen to come up? Okay. Panzer IV muffler. Okay, here's one that somebody painted. Looks like the straps aren't that color. Cool. That's good. That would have been my preference. But then in this picture, it's all rusted to shit. Oh man, here the supports are not. Okay, so we're only going to do the muffler in that color. That's good to know. Okay. Just helps you make a decision. Good. Looks better that way. Okay. Then we're going to take the same color that we have here. We're going to add a little bit more orange to it. That should be enough. Now I'm going to take Panzer Gray. I'm going to make sure we clean that up. This is the Panzer Gray, isn't it? Good, there's enough of it there. Okay. And then we're going to come in. Okay. Let's paint the things that are black that will end up getting a little bit of a gunmetal looking treatment to them. Oh, this one doesn't have those stupid cleaning rods. It's the F2 that does. Guess you don't need cleaning rods when you have a short barrel. Man, there's a lot of accoutrements here. Let's make sure we don't forget to do the coax. this jack will end up. Maybe we'll just give it kind of a wash. I don't mind it in the color that it is. Ah, there's a wee shovel hanging out back there. Alright, now, if we go do the road wheels and such, we need a bigger brush. For sure, for sure. Maybe that's what this one was out here for. I think that might have been it. No. No. Yep. This might have even been the one I used. Let's drop a drop of that flow aid. Man, it's certainly applying a lot smoother than, getting hung up and like getting thrown off course. And this paint is watered down just enough that even though I'm using straight black, it's slightly transparent. So, since I'm painting over another color, it's going to naturally look gray-like, which is ultimately what you want to go to anyways. Do the tops, the other side. if you look at the instructions of flow aid, you're only supposed to use a drop for every whatever. I just use it as a wetting agent. Works for me. There's already water in the paint. I actually missed this road wheel from the other side. Damn me. I remember this being a big pain in the ass on 35th scale models, but I guess I have a lot more patience now than I used to. This is not a big deal. We'll do that afterwards. We'll do that afterwards. Let's just do the edges. And then we'll move to the other side, and then we'll do the tops that are visible. And there's a good chance that a lot of this stuff will end up being undone because I'm weathering it. I'm going to do some light dry brushing on it, but if I don't paint it, you definitely won't see it. So I might as well paint it so some of it'll might come through. We need a little bit more real black. As soon as I find where the hell I put it, here it is. Just put it directly on here. There we go. Okay. It will flip to this side and do the same thing. Just got to use the right brush with the right shape that has enough paint in it. That the paint also applies smoothly, so you're not fighting with it all along the way. Okay. Now we'll do this side. And we still need to do this part right here, this portion. Which, heck, I'll go ahead and do it now. was almost a bad thing. I'll be right back. I need to get some coffee. I mean, I'm like dozing off. It's too relaxing painting road wheels. We'll lead you with some road wheels for your troubles. Be right back. All right. Other side. Sometimes you catch things. Looks like there's this one section. There's not a whole lot of that lighter color. I'm going to leave it as is. Not good to overthink things. Oh, here's my black. It's like, where did it go? Oh, you've been reading D-Day Tank Hunter. The author was in the 21st Panzer Division. There's some weird vehicles in that division. In the desert and Normandy, what struck me is how much sitting around he did in Normandy in hedges watching aircraft. Yeah. Wonder how the invasion in Northwest Europe would have gone. differently than if they didn't have, if there was, say, air parity. I wonder how much of that would have been significant. I think the Western Allies still would have won, but obviously it wouldn't have been so. I think the aircraft were a problem. How does the air war go if the Luftwaffe is not on the Eastern Front? Obviously, by 44, the Luftwaffe is a shadow of its former self, but best thing that happened for the UK is that Barbarossa. What was it called? D-Day Tank Hunter. There's like so many German memoirs compared to anybody else. I mean, there's more than anything else. More than US and British ones and Russian ones. And there's one called like Russian Tank Rider or something like that that's supposed to be pretty good because, from what I understand, the guy wasn't treated very well by the Soviets either, and they were trying to get him killed. That's actually a book that's available on Audible, but just like I don't like to read the German propaganda shit. I don't like reading the Russian propaganda shit either, or the Russian movies. They're just so full of crap. Like everything was just hunky dory until the Germans came. Hey, maybe some people just enjoy a good purge. I was trying to watch for the second time Man in the High Castle, and I'm like, this is just a waste of my time. If they had made it like 1949 or something like that, 1950, but to make it 1962, supposedly, it's like, this seems too hokey. Show's not geared for me. Pretty much unbelievable that the Germans would have invaded the United States. And the Japanese got half of it. I mean, like, they're really underpopulated, you know? But Russian Tank Rider. Okay, I think that's the one. They were used as cannon fodder on many occasions. Interesting to see the Russian perspective of the German defenses. Okay. Well, maybe I'll listen to it if it's worth value, if it has some value. I just don't want to read stuff that pretends like there's a clean Wehrmacht or there's a clean Soviet or there's a clean Red Army. Just just tell me what happened, you know? I know it was horrible. When you start ignoring all that stuff, you start thinking, is this author somebody who's really, is he just being a good Lancer and defending the fatherland, sorry. Or is he all in on this war of annihilation? This racial war of annihilation? I really don't want to listen to racial war of annihilation stuff. That shit's disturbing. You know, we were kids. I was a kid reading about World War II. I just assumed that it was, payback for World War One, not winning the first one. I mean, because that makes sense to me, right? It doesn't make sense to invade the Soviet Union and don't accept the Ukrainian help because you think that they're subhuman. Like, what? They freaking look the same as you. They're always short of food and ammunition, mostly covers operations in Ukraine. Okay. I've got a lot of things on my reading list. I'm not going to be reading ancient stuff for a while. I've got a whole series of books by, I think his name is Prit Bhutar, and from a 42 to 43, a 43 and a 44. And I didn't know he was an Indian author. Well, he's an English author, but he's of Indian descent. And I saw him on a program recently, and I like how he talked a lot, like his well thought out and stuff. So I've got some of his books on the watch list. He's like a surgeon or something like that, and as his side gig, he's a historian. That's pretty cool. I wouldn't be into the surgery stuff. That's it's not me. I'm sure that's how he pays the bills, though. Yeah, we were always like, man, they could have beaten the Russians if they would have just treated them better. And you're thinking, well, if your whole reason is to exterminate them, you can't really treat people well. And I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense, But I don't. I don't look at things from an extermination standpoint. I read one or two German memoirs, and I just didn't care what happened to the guy. One of them's called like Blood Red Snow. It's actually funny because I did not know I had the book. I actually had the book and never read it. And I'm actually glad I have the book because there's a couple of scenes in late 43 that involve a flamethrower tank. And I may look into that instead of having to try to find it. The Audible books are great for getting through the book. To go back and which part was that at? I think they're terrible for that. But I didn't know I had that book. That's a book that I got from the military book club in the early mid 90s, something like that, and just never read it. Just never got around to reading it. I'm not going to go hog wild on this because it's going to end up getting... The only thing I wish I'd done a better job, I wish I'd done a better job of getting the black primer in between the wheels. Between the front and the second set. But I have a feeling that when I'm done with it, I won't even be noticeable. All right, what are we going to do with this jack? We're going to paint it black. Let's thin it down some. And do that. All right, let's get some beige brown, do some wood parts. Any of you guys read that book? I don't know what it's called. But it has a, it looked interesting. It was, it has like a SDK of Z, I'm sorry, SDK of Z. 222 on the cover. And it's something like some guy from England's experience in wargaming and stuff as a kid. Is that entertaining? Is it worth picking up? I don't know what it's called, but it almost has like a comic book style SDKFZ 222 armored car with a on the cover. I think it's like a beige color. Is that an interesting book? If you know, if you have a clue what I'm talking about, I've seen it advertised before. It almost looks like it'd be like a set of rules to play war games, but I think it's like a war gamer's perspective, like growing up and getting into World War II stuff. And it's just nice getting back into this because this is what got me into military history to begin with. All the hardware and stuff of the Second World War. And I got to feel at some point I'm going to do stuff for the desert. But I have no infantry for it. And I have a lot of infantry to paint. The only thing I'm not a fan of in the desert, gonna upset you English folk, is I don't care for the long range desert group stuff. I don't think the vehicles are very attractive, and I don't think I'd do that, you know. But you could do raids at night with just regular British kit stuff. As a matter of fact, the night environment actually works really well for that, going after a strong point or... Just don't like the long-range desert group stuff. I don't know why. I don't like the way that their stuff looks. That's really the only reason. I really don't want to paint a bunch of English guys in Arab garb. Although I'm going to be honest with you, playing a bunch of Italians on the receiving end of a surprise attack at night and the things they'd be able to say would be pretty funny. Maybe we could do some of the stuff and just not make them look Arabed up. How about that? Maybe that's the secret. God, what's the name of that book? I'm gonna have to find out what that is if you guys can't tell me what it is. Looks like it'd be humorous. I went to that used bookstore a couple of weeks ago, and one book that they had in a wargaming section, kind of the craft section, is they had 1 hour war games or something like that. And it was basically looked like somebody had never even read it or whatever. I think it was like they wanted $10 for it or everything, or so it was like half the normal price. And I'm like, I flipped through it. I was there 3 hours in the store, and I flipped through it once, and I'm like, this is no good. And then I went back to it, and I'm like, nah. There's just I looked at it. Just there might be some interesting stuff in there, but I don't think so. It has an old commando. That's the one I'm referring to. Achtung Schweinhund. Is it worth reading? Is it interesting? It has an old commando magazine cover on the front. Memories of how we got involved with wargame. Identify the names, ideas. Can't remember the title. Very 1970s British perspective. That's okay. That's just stuff we grew up with. Is it worth reading? 1970s British perspective. I don't know. I have to see what that is. I'm sure that's the stuff I grew up with, you know. And all that. Achtung Schweinhund. I mean, geez, I grew up with Guns and Navarone. I can't tell you how many times I watched that. That's like my quintessential wargaming movie. World War II movie growing up. More than any other movie, it was that one. Next week, All Quiet on the Western Front comes out on Netflix here in the United States. We'll see how that is. I haven't seen 1917 either. We're going to watch them back to back. We're going to watch 17 first, and then we'll watch the other one. We'll see if I can get the daughter to watch both of them with me. If not, well, I'm on my own. Enjoy my childhood in a nutshell here in the UK. Well, as long as it doesn't have these horror stories of the puddings and stuff that you guys eat. Oh, meat-based puddings. Ooh. That's cool. Sounds interesting. I like the name of it. I can't remember what it was called. Oh, man. What would be the English? What would be the English translation to Achtung Schweinhund? Like, listen up, pig dog. Listen up, you pig dog. I really like the Second World War so much because the Germans are just a fantastic enemy. It's a quintessential, unfortunately, you know, but a quintessential fantastic enemy. What about that silly movie I never even heard about until recently? It's called something. It's that puppet movie, something about Whitehall or something. I'm sure that's absurdly ridiculous. A puppet movie like Team America World Police, or I don't know if it's done by the same people, but the same type of puppet. Like, you guys watched that Thunderbird show when you were kids. I didn't even know about it. It wasn't available here in the States, or I certainly didn't see it, but something to Whitehall. That might be a good thing to watch with Mitch or something like that. Some person that knows just enough about World War II that would find it hilarious. The irony and shit. So I always thought Hogan's Heroes was really funny because I know enough about World War II. So the irony and the cliches are, I haven't seen it in a lot of years. I probably wouldn't like it now, but I remember as a kid, man, I loved that because it was, you got to understand the cliches and the irony and all that kind of over exaggerations and shit like that. Achtung Schweinhund. I don't think it's available on Audible. I basically prefer everything on Audible unless it's something that is very map dependent. Because you can't exactly look at maps while you're driving down the road in a car. You shouldn't be. I don't have much left to do this, and this guy will be ready to get sprayed as well. Less is more. Now less is always less. It just don't overdo it. No. This Schweinhund's almost done. I was looking through a catalog that online, these folks that are, of course, they're in the UK. Why would they be anywhere else in the world? Called Battlefield 3D. Those jokers make like every single vehicle. They make vehicles I never even heard of. All 3D printed. And unfortunately, they're pretty expensive. They're for 1/72nd, they're 11 to, not the huge vehicles, 11 to 16 pounds, something like that. Which once you start factoring the shipping is just like cuckoo. I may get some, but I need to, I got lots of things to do. And you know, the thing is the ones the vehicles I have, it's not like I don't want to paint these. You know, I already have them. You know. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with that. Where are the tracks for these bastards? Here's one. Here's the other. This one's stapled, which I should just go back and staple this one. These are a very tight fit. Oh, we got to make sure we do the tread pattern correctly in the right direction. They got like a V. If it's anything like the American ones, it's it faces the V forward. Let me my Panzer colors out here handy? No, it's about to be. These are books that are not, I don't think, that useful these days. But I already have them. You know, and I'm not going to get rid of them, so you might as well use them. Let's see if we can see it. Assuming the track is even remotely correct. Which it looks like it isn't. Well, I have to just decide which way I'm going to put it forward. Yeah, it doesn't look like that at all. Didn't look like that at all. The track actually looks like each link. Each link looks like this. Hey, it's even a drawing show. Looks like this. It's not straight. It's angled. And then the cleats are angled like this. And this is, you guys are seeing it backwards. So it's towards the front. Actually, you can't see it at all. So this is actually, this is the top facing forward, and this is the bottom. So with that said, the V is towards the top. I'm gonna make that call and decide to make them that way. So we will set them. See, there's only one V, so it's not even close to being the same track. So we're gonna make sure that it looks like a V when it comes across the front. Okay, I think this is a job for helping hands. Da, 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 da. That's where we got this thing. see what I do with these rubber band tracks. I've already got this thing solved. We're going to paint them metallic. Nice. Let's see how we can grip these. I got all these tools, might as well use them. Let's make sure we do it towards the inside. That it won't be visible. And we're just going to dry brush the shit out of this. I think we're just going to do it with chocolate brown. It's almost like, okay, so they're black, right? Okay, so I just pretended I sprayed them black. Okay, so that's what I'm going to start off with. So if I had to spray them black, what would I do? I would dry brush some chocolate brown on them, and then when I put them on there, then I will dry brush the metal when it's actually on the thing, and that should work fine. You know, I mean, they're the wrong tracks anyways, so I could buy aftermarket one. Yeah, no, these are war game models. They have the wrong. The road wheels are incorrect on these. They have a pattern that never existed. So I don't let those little details get in the way. You know, I already have these. Had I not had them, it'd be something different. Like maybe I wouldn't use them at all, but I already have them. So am I willing to not use them? No. Just like I have 176 scale stuff, I'm going to mix freely with 1/72, and I will not have any problem sleeping at night. You guys might. But you can overthink things. And then you'll do it too. The Schweinhund. Haven't used this brush, it's already a piece of shit. Now, the thing I like about this helping hand is it's a lot higher than I'm used to. And this may not be the best way to do it. But this is a way to do it. Oh, I'm going to get this shit all over my fingers, aren't I? And transfer it to something else. There we go. Because the German tracks were all metal. I couldn't believe how much rubber's on American tracks. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. I mean, you know, good for them. Because it's a hell of a lot quieter. But that was just crazy. Seeing that half track with all that rubber on the... I think I read somewhere that all civilian auto production. I could have read incorrectly, but it seemed like all civilian auto production in the United States was suspended during the Second World War. That's pretty incredible. If that's accurate, that's pretty incredible. If that's accurate. Huh? You don't need a car if you lose the war, you know? Yeah, we didn't leave a lasting crimp there. That's good. We'll just come in and do that. Looks. Seems like the way to do it. I think I will hold and do the lighter. I am going to do a lighter dry brush on that. Let's get the other track going in the same direction. I'm going to end up stapling both of them. So let me make sure that I grab another one that's stapled. I don't trust this thing not coming undone. I guess I only have one stapled. All right, let's have a little faith. Let's see, where is the boogered part here? All right, so we're going to hold this one here and this one over about here. Yeah, and just use that color as a base instead of the black. Okay, back to chocolate brown. Probably the most useful color other than black and white that I have is this chocolate brown. It is good for so many things. Now you guys got me thinking, what exactly is a 70s British perspective? Maybe I already know what it is and I just can't put words to it. Sounds like something people in modern day wouldn't be able to process. They wouldn't have enough thick skin for. That's what it sounds like. I don't have a problem with that kind of stuff. I'm old school. I had an older dad, and I like to tell people that I should have been born 10 years before I was born, which would put me your guys' age. So, kind of think the same way. Maybe that's why I'm into wargaming so much. Because I got my love of history from my dad, but he wasn't a wargamer. Oh, he did have all the tank. I don't know if he had any tank books now to mention it, but he had a bunch of ship books. Battleships and shit like that. Surfing around this morning before I went online, and the hobby store I went to had some old kits in it, and they had an MPC kit, which is our rebranded Airfix kits. And I did 1/600 scale ships at the time. I didn't know that they made a King George V and 600 scale by MPC. I mean, yeah, I didn't have it. It must have not come into any stores that I had seen. That's a shame. I would have gotten that one. I had the Bismarck and the Prinz Eugen and Graf Spee. I think I had a light cruiser, the Ark Royal. Somebody gave me a USS Baltimore class heavy cruiser that I ended up using as a British ship because I didn't need an American ship in the Battle of the North Atlantic, especially when all those were used in the Pacific. You know, I was 12 years old or something like that. I'm drawing a blank here. What did I do on top of chocolate brown? I didn't do anything. I had darkened it with black before I put the chocolate brown on. That's what it is. Okay, well, I don't need to do anything to it then. This will, I'm just going to put them on now. See if I can fuck them up. And we'll spray them with them on there. Alright, the V forward. Yeah, I didn't know they made a King George V with the... We used to play naval war games with that ship, and that one was not a good one to play with. It had a big weak point. Well, the rules might have been wrong, too, as far as how the importance they gave certain things, but no conning tower armor. So bad things could happen to you because of that, but good armor everywhere else. No conning tower armor. I always liked Rodney. Rodney was that was my favorite British battle wagon, without a doubt. Not even close. That was a cool ship. Let's use some. This is perfect. It is a tight fit. It was a tight fit to get it out. Make sure we don't crush the... It's not that difficult. I'm being careful with it because I'd rather not snap this. And we may end up epoxying this down when it's on the actual tank to give this some track slack. And we need to paint the headlights too. It's not that difficult to get in there. I'm just being careful. I don't want to have to undo anything that I've done. Or grab this in the wrong place and bend a headlight, and then I gotta fix that. But this is a hell of a lot easier than trying to paint it while it's installed. Because there's that little ridge in the... Go on, get in there, but don't break. Man, it is a tight fit. It did give me some trouble trying to get it out. Let's use, with all of the tools that we have here, let's use this. Let's use this little guy. Boy, I don't remember it being this much of a pain in the butt to put it back in. To take it out. We're getting there. There we go. We just turned the corner, I think. Now, let's align this. There we go. This one's very slack. I better be careful. I need to just be happy that it's how it is. Okay. I think we're golden here. Okay, I think we're going to try, because see, this actually looks pretty nice. The way that this came down. I think we're going to try putting some epoxy and stuff on here and sticking those Q-tips that you guys, one of you guys was telling me about, or needles or something else to just give it a little bit of a, certainly there's enough give in this track to do that. And it's going to be mounted on a stand, so it should stay in place. Well, you know, I'm going to spray it in. It's going to look something totally different. It's going to look more, it's going to look dark bluish, so to speak. And I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, it'll look a lot better with decals and the such. Time is it? Almost 9. Let's keep rolling. Let's work on the F2. All right, let me put some glasses on so I can see what the hell I've done. Because sometimes I get too close to something and I can't see it. I can't look at the big picture. Let me look at it over here at 3 feet. That's where the thing should pop. Yeah, it looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. And we haven't even weathered it. And it's not going to be heavy weathering. I don't believe in that. Undoing everything that you've done. Yeah, that chocolate brown's definitely the base color of the track. Is the look I like. Okay, cool. Oh, look at this. It even fits inside. Oh, man. Okay, where did we leave this guy at? This is going to need camouflage. And we're going to go light on the camouflage. Like, in other words, it's going to be transparent like. That's the intent, anyhow, to be transparent like. And the color I use for the brown may be really close to this, to the chocolate brown. Maybe really close to chocolate brown. So. Oh, did we already dry brush this? Oh, we did. We did do that. I just have to pick the details out. Okay, cool. Let me look at some pictures of this. I created a Pinterest for these guys just so it's easy to find and start messing with the camouflage. Yeah. And if I don't like how it turns out, then I didn't make it very thick. And let me go down here and I'll put the picture up that we will be inspired by there on this. All pins, no. I want the pin for Panzer IV F2. Let me make sure I get the right one here. And it looks good in whitewash. Man, it looks good in whitewash. Okay, that's one with green. That's one with dark yellow. I don't want that one. That's the one with no camo. I'm pretty sure I had one here. Oh, I didn't save one in there? Okay. Well, then the hell with you. We're going to do a search for Panzer IV F2. I'm not even going to put brown. Images. A lot of ones in North Africa. I don't know how many they sent to North Africa, but I think they would have been better served on the Eastern Front. Because they needed that long 75 on the Eastern Front more than in North Africa. I didn't want to click on that. I don't know why I'm so worried about finding it. I could just probably wing it and be just fine. Because, like I said, it's going to be very, very light. Some guy gave me an idea of how to paint camouflage on a tank with paint, make it look airbrush style, and I think I'm going to try to give that a shot. And I'll either like it or I won't. There's no picture in here, is there? I don't think there is. No, there's one with a green. No reason I couldn't just do the same thing in green. Man, I thought I had saved a picture of it. Let me do this. Just give me a second, folks. Oh, you know what? I bet it was on a decal sheet that I saw it. I bet that's what it is. I bet that's what it is. Now that I think about it. Okay. I bet that's exactly where I found it. Where's my mouse? There it is. It's all the way up here. All right, what we got here? Well, it's not that one. Panzer IV aus F2. Unknown unit, 24th Panzer Division. I really dislike their jumping horse symbol. Not a fan. I like the running dog on the 116th. I just don't like those are Africa. These are SS ones. F those guys. Huh? Maybe I won't do it in brown camo. Just figured out opportunities, do something a little different. Man, I swear I saw a model up here that I really, really liked. Man, it looks great in whitewash. So one thing you guys may not have known, I didn't know about this until recently. It doesn't make any sense, but man, I thought there had been a... What about these? Africa? Africa. Oh, interesting. Leibstandard, early Tunisia, Panzer IV F2, Panzerabteilung 204. But that one has yellow. Panzerabteilung 204. Here's a Russian publication. It has green. I don't think the green pops enough. What's this one? Is this brown? No, that one's yellow. Yeah, I know I'd seen one. Going nuts. Now I'm curious. Panzer Abteilung 204. Is that attached to division? Twenty-second Panzer Division. 22nd Panzer Division. Okay. And that had those big ass numbers. Yeah, we ain't doing that. Okay. Alright, maybe I'll just wing it. I'll wing other things. No reason not to wing this one. Alright. We go to the little boy's room. We'll be right back.